All right. Thank you, Kim, for that great introduction, and welcome everyone to our August 29th buyer user group meeting. Thanks to everyone also for joining. I know we're in the kind of the lead up to the Labor Day weekend with Ken's kind of fun question as we started off the meeting this morning talking about fall topics and particularly pumpkin spice. But again, appreciate everybody joining as we in the lead up to Labor Day. Also for the change we had a little scheduling change kind of late into last week that shifted this meeting out to today. So appreciate everybody being able to adjust their schedules and join. And as always, for anybody who might have missed the meeting, we are recording and this will be posted on the eVA website for posterity purposes. Let's kick into the agenda here this morning. So our agenda, we didn't meet. Last meeting we had was in June. So this will give us a chance to kind of talk about what's happened this summer. Got some items coming in of interest. So some highlights there. I kind of got these flipped because we're gonna jump out of here real quick and look at some important links and where they are on the eVA homepage, and then shift back out, look at some high priority issues that we have. So some things that are coming here throughout the fall as we go into the forum in November. Also talking about, we've got some direct priorities from the governor's administration and some items. Some of you, depending on the audience that you're with, we've talked to some of you guys individually or in groups about these, but no worries if you haven't heard about these priorities. I'm going to cover them today and kind of chat about that today. And then we've got a light demo if we have some time left at the end of the session to go over some demo items. But again, that's kind of what we're looking at today. Just kind of get you guys caught up and moving forward here. I don't think we've set the date yet, Kim, but I'm pretty sure we will do a September and October user group potentially. And then we'll take off the month of November because we do have our in-person forum, and we will be doing the user group in person at the forum in November. So looking forward to seeing everybody at our user group session at the forum. So let's dig in here to some release management stuff. Now I have put these links on here for posterity purposes because again, you'll be able to see these in the recorded meeting or get back to them if you need to. But we heard you. We started doing release notes as part of the implementation when we shifted to the new platform that we're on. And those release notes, as we kind of went into the summer months, if you weren't aware of where they were, they were in the footer of the eVA homepage. I don't want to call them buried, but they were sort of buried, but certainly they were a resource for you guys. Well, we've changed our approach on that as we've kind of huddled and kind of reset ourselves for the summer going into the fall as we begin to get the implementation further and further behind us. And I'm going to show you that in a second. That's the direct link. And then I'll show you on the eVA homepage where we're parking our release notes. I'll drive to that in just a minute. And then I know we've been talking about it for several months, but it's something I just want to keep bringing up every time we meet, where our eVA tips are located. Now, again, that's a direct link that I've provided to you on this through this slide for the user group, but I'm going to show you that as well. So what I'm going to do is I am going to shift over to our meeting and stop sharing. And then I am going to share my eVA homepage, if I can find it. For those of you that have, you always know my sharing. It always takes me a second as I'm shifting around. There we go. So I'm going to share. You guys should now be seeing, yes, you should now be seeing eVA. And make that go away because I actually want to. Okay. Over there. Whoops.
And while Shane's navigating to that, just please keep in mind, if you have a specific question that requires assistance, please make sure that you utilize our support forms through customer care. You reach out to the resources within your organization or your account executive. Definitely, we want to get you that help, but today's platform isn't going to be where we can individually assist you. So I just wanted to kind of remind you of that as we're entering
Great.
questions and thinking about questions.
Thanks, Kim. And so real quick here, we kind of talked about the release notes area. If you come into the eVA homepage, eva.virginia.gov, and it's always a good time watching me stop sharing and navigating around the homepage. It always takes me a few seconds. Appreciate your patience. Come in here to the eVA homepage. If you click on the resources drop down, you'll see a link for eVA release notes. I will go ahead and click on that. And then what you're seeing is our release notes for each month. Please note there was not a production release in July. So we didn't miss a month. There just wasn't one in July. But going back to November of 2022, you can see a link to our release notes area. I'll click on the August notes here so you can get a look at what that format looks like. Give it just a sec, but there it is. We have a key. This is really helpful if you're reaching out to somebody on our team about a specific change that happened. The audience, kind of who this impacts or what area of the tool it impacts, the component, and then the date that it went in. I will tell you that there is a production release coming in on the 31st. We'll talk about some of those highlights. Some of them are from the 31st. And then we're still in the middle of testing and wrapping up that release. And after all that's done, Tony will come in and, probably sometime after the Labor Day holiday, in that time frame, you'll be able to pop in here and you'll see not only items from August 3rd, but also August 31st. But a good resource for you guys. I'll shift back to the main page. What we plan on doing is as soon as Tony can get to it, when a release goes in, we'll make sure that the notes are updated for that month. And then as we move to 2024, we'll turn all the 2023 items, and including the 2 months in 2022, into a link for 2023. And then we'll start listing the months out for 2024. So you'll always have a good reference point to be able to go back and have access to these release notes. So excited to get these out for you. And again, it's off of the resources drop down there, off of the resources. So not buried, just kind of in an area that you can get to. I know I talked to some of you through some individual meetings, and we were parking the release notes in the transparency area, but we made that decision when Kim was out of the office, quite honestly. And she kind of came back to us and said, hey guys, it's more of a resource than it is transparency. Transparency is very transaction based with orders and reports and some supplier things and stuff like that. So that's really very report and transactional focused. And so we agreed and said resources is just a perfect place to park our release notes. So again, over there in the resources area. And then I've been doing this pretty much every meeting, kind of drumming this. We're very excited about our tips page. We think there's some great stuff out there. Just as a reminder, you can, of course, use the direct link in the slides. I'll shift back to the slides in just a minute. But if you come back to the eVA homepage, one of the quickest ways to navigate is you can go into the I Buy for Virginia, go into the buyer training area, and then there is a tab here for buyer tips. And then there's all sorts of buyer tips. And we have a recent one there from August 14th, quite honestly. So about 2 weeks ago was our last tip, but you can see they're coming in pretty regularly. And they're hitting all over the place, from sourcing to security to catalogs to things going on in our P2P tool. So very exciting stuff, for some tips. And this tend to be kind of high volume things in areas where we're either noticing that a tip can be helpful or just, valuable information to help you do your job. There are also supplier tips, and the quickest way to get to that, when you're on the buying tips, you'll notice this link for supplier training right there. If you click on supplier training, the suppliers have a training page as well. And then there's a tips page for the suppliers. Not as many as on the buyer side, but some big ones: resetting passwords. There's one, how do I get paid? If they have questions about getting paid from the supplier side, electronic response, as well as checking your supplier registration. And our most recent tip back on August 21st was actually around password reset on the supplier side. So again, those tips are great, not only for you guys in the buying community, but also to direct your suppliers to as well. And they're located on our training pages for both our buyer and supplier training areas. So excited to have that information out there for you guys. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will go back to sharing the PowerPoint presentation. So give me just a sec. And that should shift us over back into sharing our PowerPoint presentation there. And just confirm that. Yes, we look good to go. So we will move forward here. So again, in the slides, you've got those direct links. But again, all you got to do is go to eva.virginia.gov. You can do a search. If you forget this, there is a search option right around where the login is. And you can search for release notes or search for EVA tips, and that'll bring it up. But again, the EVA tips located in the buyer and supplier training, and then the release notes for EVA located in the resources drop down. So excited to get that stuff out for you. Speaking of releases, great segue here. Let's shift into some highlights from our August 31st release. And those are items you should see on Friday, September 1st. So those items will come in overnight on Thursday and be available for you guys on Friday, September 1st. You'll see these in production. So starting in sourcing, we're adding supplier status to the analyze and award screens when you're going in and one of your, an IFB, an RFP, whatever it is, may have closed, and you're reviewing those supplier responses. Much like in the requisitioning area, when you're actually creating a requisition and trying to get a purchase order out the door, we're adding a supplier status in there. So you're aware of the status of your EVA suppliers at the time when you're analyzing and awarding. That can be very critical because we do allow our suppliers to submit a response while they're in the middle of getting their registration completed. But a lot of you, you're going to want to make sure that the supplier is fully registered and active in EVA before you award to them. So again, that supplier status is there to help you with that. Sourcing, we made a quick change. Sourcing, there's a lot of clicks and a lot of buttons and a lot of functionality in the sourcing tool. Right now, when you are creating your solicitation, there's one of the last steps you do when you get all your information issued is you send it. You're getting that solicitation out the door, and the button currently in production just simply says send. But what it's really doing is it's sending and publishing, right? It's getting that solicitation published publicly and then sending a notice out to your supplier community when you have a commodity match that there's a business opportunity available. So we're just making that button a lot more clear to make sure that it says send and publish. So we're hoping that'll be helpful. The next two, these are two items for your requisition and purchase order that you guys have been asking for several months. It's one of the things I'm going to demo a little bit later in our session today, but we added a created date field to the browse requisition screen. So you can pull up those requisitions through browse, and now there's a field there that tells you when that requisition was created. And then for purchase orders, there's an order date. So when that purchase order, when that rec gets fully approved and that purchase order gets generated, there's a date stamp going onto the browse PO screen for an order date. So this is things that you guys have been asking for pretty much since we went live. We're going to be able to get those things in August 31st. And I'm going to pop over into UAT and specifically show you the rec and PO order date screens and talk a little bit about those browse screens. I know we've done that in the past, but I think it's a very valuable information just to kind of, there's some pretty cool functionality in those browse screens and how you can set them up and lock fields and stuff. And I think there's some value to going over that as well. Staying in the requisition area for confirming orders. We're now on line item mass edit if you're doing a confirming order. And again, a confirming order is, you're going in, this is an order, maybe it's a site of sale order, something that you've already completed, and you're getting into eVA to record that, to get that transaction recorded in eVA. And a lot of times confirming orders, it's something you've already done, right? So for confirming orders, when you do a mass edit on your lines, it allows you to backdate that delivery date. Because again, a lot of times for confirming order, it's something you've done in the past. And if you have multiple lines you're trying to get keyed in, that allows you to go in and backdate those line items, because, if I'm doing a confirming order today's the 29th of August. Well, maybe I did I actually completed the order back on the 24th. And so that's what you want to put in. I picked up those items. I did a site of sale purchase, went right into the store, ran my P card, picked up those items at the site of sale, and then getting that recorded into eVA allows me to backdate that from a mass edit perspective. This next one for purchase orders, allowing for change orders after contract expiration. And again, not allowing for new orders after a contract expired. But if you need to do any change orders on a purchase order after a contract's expired, there were some error messages that were firing for that, and we're allowing that to happen now as well. And then I know this doesn't impact a lot of you, but on the approval rules table, we've added a from to threshold and the PR types, and I'll show you that real quick. And when I'm demoing, and we'll pop in there and show you those approval rules, a little change of that. Again, I know that's not a big, huge global impact to a lot of you guys, but it's just something interesting to look at that we'll take a look at here in just a moment. But again, I think the big ones for this one is adding those dates into the browse rec and browse PO screen. So excited to get those going for you. Shifting from what's coming into the 31st, and staying on our agenda here, one of the items I wanted to talk about is the high priority issues, or the issues that we as a team are putting a lot of focus on right now to get these items and get these various issues wrapped up and out to you. We're getting some stuff in August, and then kind of looking ahead to the fall on some items that we're either fixing or enhancing from now all the way through kind of the November, December timeframe. So let's shift to that. And these are our high priority issues, and issues where either, again, from an enhancement perspective, and some of them are closing, some fixes that we wanted to get in. So from a high priority perspective, this first one here, combined two-step, the ability to do a combined two-step solicitation where you're truly, from a supplier response perspective, getting a technical response where they're responding, directly to their ability to meet your specifications. And then if they pass that technical evaluation, or they pass that initial business evaluation, then you would open up anybody who passed that first part of the step, their prices. All right, so truly having both envelopes locked, and then once you pass through, only opening up the financial information or the pricing information for anybody who qualifies out of that first step. So For those that impacts, not a huge impact in our environment. I'm pretty sure VDOT is one of them. I'm sure we have some VDOT users on here, and certainly our own group here at DPS doing some combined two-step. So stay tuned to your email and outreach from your account executives on that one as we get that in place in production here in August, and then some guidance coming out on that once we get that kind of settled into production. This next bullet point, the completed capital project reporting. Again, this likely doesn't impact all of you, but that is reporting we have done on construction projects going all the way back to the legacy system. We've been doing this for several years. We have been able to recreate that functionality in the new eVA environment. I think from testing and looking at that form, it's even easier than our old environment to do your capital project reporting. And that's going to go in August. And again, look for that outreach from our account executives here at DPS as well, as we open up that reporting period and allow users from all over the Commonwealth and all entities of the Commonwealth to go in and do that capital project reporting if they have to. If they have to. You're only doing reporting if you have a completed capital project to report. So that doesn't impact every single one of you if you don't have a completed capital project to report. In September, we noticed a P-card approval situation. It's a rare situation where we're just, kind of locking down some security around P-card approvals. And if you are in an environment where you're attaching a P-card to somebody else's transaction, or you're using someone else's P-card on a requisition, making sure all those approvals are locked up and we're getting the proper approvals recorded within eVA when a P-card is associated with the transaction. That's a little gap we're closing here in September, just making sure we've dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's with that, with P-card approvals. And then the next one, also security related, an automated 90-day user deactivation. We know that's kind of a manual process now. After 90 days, if you have a user who hasn't gone into the system, those accounts do get disabled. You got to, reach out, get your user ID reactivated and do a password reset. And that's pretty standard procedure that we've been doing for a very, very long time. Certainly the password every 90 days, if you're logging directly into eVA and not using single sign-on, you'll notice you have to do that password reset. So just kind of strengthening that, and that's a security protocol that we're following based on some guidance from VITA and a security that we follow called SEC 525. So not a huge impact to you guys, but security officers out there just knowing that that's something that we're going to be doing for you just to kind of help protect the system. Some other things we are working on that we're very excited about for our requisitions, adding some additional approval logic to strengthen your ability to capture all approvals electronically in eVA. We know the approval module that we're on in our new platform, it's different than our old legacy platform, and the ability, maybe potentially putting some enhancements for those of you using the buyer inbox and how that works, the ability for those of you using Queue Manager, potentially adding in additional approvals after the queue management work is done. Also the ability to, when changes are made, refire approvals to send folks through, or back through the approval, depending on the changes that have been made. So excited. We're continuing to kind of work through a lot of various business cases we have, and we're thinking November to get something in production for that. The next one is our PO integration. So those of you that are integration agencies, there is kind of There's a workaround, but it's not the most ideal workaround, where if your finance system, you can do real-time integration with eVA, and when we send a purchase order transaction up to your finance system, and for whatever reason there's a denial, maybe the money's gone away, maybe there's the chart of accounts or the accounting allocations haven't been coded properly, and for whatever reason up in the ERP it says, hey, I'm going to deny this because you need to make some changes in eVA. Well, if you get that denial, you're kind of stuck. And unfortunately, the workaround's pretty ugly. You got to create, kind of a standalone order that's not tied to the transaction. Well, we're working on getting a fix in for that as well. So just like our legacy system, if you get a denial from the integration, you'll be able to basically do a change order or do an edit, make the changes that are required, and then reintegrate those transactions. So we're excited about moving forward with that as well. That's been kind of a long-term thing that was identified very early in our transition. So excited to finally have kind of the technical wherewithal we feel like to get that one fixed as well. And then for those of you that are using the queue management functionality, there are some additional oversight dashboards coming in. We feel like that'll give you, had a lot of business cases and a lot of feedback on our queue management area. And we feel like there'll be some screens, some additional screens that we'll be adding to this process that really give you a better feel for, who has the transactions, what transactions are coming in, how old they are, things like that. So we're excited to get this up. November for production, but we are likely in October to be able to have that in our UAT environment and allow folks to take a good look at that to make sure it's making their needs. So excited about all of those high priority issues and really putting a lot of focus on these issues over the next several weeks and months. But these are not the only issues that we are focused on with our program. These are certainly some things that we're going to knock out for you guys as we continue. We're very, very committed, even though it's, some of you may feel like it's been a little slow going, getting to this point where we're kind of doing enhancing more than just fixing bugs. We've also got some priorities from the Governor's Administration. I'm very excited to talk with you guys about these. And our first one from our Governor's Priorities is what's called, quite simply, procure to pay reporting. And that is the ability via reporting, via eVA data, and financial data, to reconcile your purchase orders, vouchers, payments, and P-card payments. So seeing this all in one string. We're very excited about this. How that is accomplished is voucher and payment data is sent back to the eVA data warehouse. The big key with this is the PO must be on the voucher. The eVA purchase order must be on the voucher so we can do that matching. Our pilot of this, so I can start showing you this, hopefully, in September. So, if you're thinking ahead to the September user group and you're like, I don't know what Shane's talking about with this PO to pay reporting, mark your calendars when you see the invite from Kim come out and from our team all around the procure to pay reporting. I should be able to do some demonstrations for you in September. And if for whatever reason we miss the September date, certainly in October, when we do our user group meeting, we'll have the opportunity to take a look at this procure to pay reporting. But this is certainly a transparency initiative, and excited to be showing you this. But again, imagine in your mind being able to pull up a report for an agency, seeing all the purchase orders, and then tied to that, either if it was paid by check, the voucher, check number information, things like that, or if it was paid by P-card, even having that P-card data there. So you can see a PO and you can see the P-card data directly from Bank of America. So excited to be tying all that together and really increasing our transparency in this area. Our next priority from the Governor's Administration, if I can get my slide to switch. There it goes. So if I can get my slide to switch here, our next priority that we're putting a lot of focus on is the contract module. Sometimes you'll hear us say the contract management module. And we're really looking for the first phase of this, some overall enhancing and improving and adding more fields and information for October of 2023. And again, October of 2023 is when we're looking at getting some of these items in. Just a couple of the highlights. And again, if you're thinking ahead to the forum, if you're thinking ahead to maybe an October user group, certainly these are areas that we will be doing demonstrations on. So I'll kind of go through these and then, kind of talk about some of those bottom bullet points here in just a minute. So for October, kind of this first phase, variable price line items. So right now our line items, you're either going to a punch out catalog or you have what I would consider a static line item. I'm buying a blue widget and the unit price on that widget is $5 and I'm going to get 10 of those widgets. So, pretty cut and dry. Variable price line items allow us to, potentially have a range of prices that we're working with. And some of the big examples of that are, like temporary labor, where maybe you're dealing in a range, like an hourly rate that varies, from $15 to $20. And you're using a contract to bring in a temporary resource, but you're negotiating within that range. So you don't know what the hourly rate's going to be until you lock down your resource, lock down your candidate, and say, well, we're going to be, with that $15 to $20 range, we're going to pay $18. So that allows you to record that line item with a price that's not, locked in stone, like my blue widget example, but then you can still reference the contract number, and then that gives everybody the ability to see how much was spent on contract. But again, for variable price line items. The other good example of a variable price line item for those of you that buy fuel, those prices change pretty much every day. Fuel is a volatile commodity from a pricing perspective. That again allows you and your end users to come in, go through the process of determining what the fuel price was for the period in time that you've made that purchase, record that, but then tie that contract directly to it. So again, very excited about the variable price line item options coming in. Some other things we're going to capture and update, the ability for you on a contract to record the estimated value of a contract or project. Increasing both in the sourcing module and the contracting module approval workflow, and having some adjustments there that allow for workflow and approvals of both sourcing projects and contracts. Controlling the use of evergreen contracts. Again, we service a lot of clients, including local governments and public authorities that may have more leeway with evergreen. I would imagine there'll be some form of contract approval around evergreen contracts. But again, kind of controlling our use on that and making sure the evergreen contract option is being used where it's appropriate. The ability to capture, identify the funding source for those of us, particularly in executive branch, where the funding source has some importance. And then kind of these last two here, your ability to track contract deliverables. So, being able to go in and electronically record all the deliverables that are needed as part of a contract, and being able to, confirm that and track that in an electronic environment. And then as you close out contracts, we know we have things to do when we close a contract out, being able to track contract closeout electronically within the eVA contract module. So for historical purposes, being able to go in and confirm that deliverables came in at the right time or that dates were missed. And from a contract closeout perspective, knowing that as contracts expire, we are going through all of our various things that we need to do to close out a contract. And then, of course, that's recorded electronically. Those last two bullets, additional phases, are absolutely being planned to continue to meet the needs and the requirements from the governor's administration and the priorities that his administration has for some of this procurement transformation and the things that we are doing. It's all about this visibility and transparency. It really all comes back to that. And then, our goal, all of these things, if you think about the procure to pay and these contract changes, this goal of kind of getting into true category management. And category management is the concept of being able to, at a commodity level, very easily see through your data what type of contracts you have, what type of spend you're seeing, and things like that. So you have a vision, across eVA and across the Commonwealth or across certain groups of entities, the contracts that are out there, where the spend's going and things like that. So you truly have that concept of category management. So that's really where all this is pointing to. But again, transparency, visibility, it's a big part of what we've been doing for years. And we're doing some things here that we feel like really strengthen that. So that's kind of our high priority items. Some of the items we're getting, that line up with the governor's priorities. And I think particularly the variable price line items, that's really exciting to be able to capture that type of information and get that where it's very user-friendly, and being able to do that in the eVA environment. So the last part here was the demo. I've already done 2 of these. I jumped out, showed you where the release notes were, again, in the resources drop down off the eVA homepage, showed you the eVA tips page as well. And I know you guys are probably getting sick of that if you're a veteran of the user group, because I just keep going back to them. But I really do think they're valuable. We're pretty good about, every week, every 2 weeks, getting a buyer or supplier tip out, something that's that's fitting and has good information for either you guys in the buying community and the supplier community as well. So just something to kind of take a look at and keep your eyes on. And I know Kim, when she sends out her eVA Extra, we reference those a lot and drive you back to those as well. And then the last thing I wanted to show you guys was the Browse Rec PO screen, and just have a quick look at that and that new date field that's in there. And then just a real quick look. Again, I know it doesn't impact everybody, but go in and having a look at the approval rules screen. So I will stop sharing. And again, bear with me as I shift back over to the eVA homepage. You know how I am. There we go. I think I got the right one here. And it should be loading. I'll give that a second to load up. So I'm back on the eVA homepage here. I'll pop over here. And actually, I should have UAT already up unless it lost my connection. It might have. So let me get out of a couple of these pages here. And I'm just going to jog into our UAT account real quick. And so I'm in UAT. And again, this is about adding that date field. So if I go to procurement, browse recs, I've got some requisitions here, and let me narrow this. I'm going to click the My Request just to narrow that down. So these are requests. And again, this is UAT, guys. It's test data. You're likely to see all sorts of crazy stuff in here. But just keep that in mind. And then if you scroll over, you'll notice I've got a created date field here. All right, that's been added. All right, now it's at the very end. It's to the far right. It can be sorted. So I can sort on create date. So I did one, I think that's Friday, I think is what that date is. I did one as soon as Friday, and you can see kind of dates there, and it is a sortable field. You also have the ability to, you've got, where you can do date ranges here. If you want to search, and do a little bit more filtering. So that's that date field there. The other thing you can do that I always keep in mind, obviously I'm very curious from a create date if I've still got requisitions in progress, and I've got a lot in this case. Now remember, you can always do a favorite. So if I go back, so I can set up a query exactly the way I want it. And then you remember, you can hit the star and you can save a favorite, right? I can add a page and then you can save a favorite. So if I go back to, excuse me. Too many pop-ups. There we go. So if I go back to the eVA, like this is the first page I see when I log in, right? If I click my favorites, I created one called In Progress Recs. So I can click that. And this filters for me in progress requisitions. And then there's my created date there, right? Now, I made a mistake because I forgot to sort it for my request. So I'm seeing requests from all over, but then I can do that real quick and get it where it's my in progress request and I can see, you know, the created date there. And that's my most recent one. And then I've got some old ones. Oh my gosh. Now, again, I'm in UAT. I hope none of you guys have from January, you know, requisitions that are still in progress, but certainly this can help you identify those. Another thing you might have noticed, do you notice when I scroll? Hang on, let me get right on the page here. That my headers, see how they're locked? And so I can, you know, scroll. I don't have a ton of transactions here, but that I've got those headers locked. And then I don't know that I've made any adjustments to this screen per se, but I did do that. You can always come to the bottom right-hand corner of Browse Recs and the one we're going to go to, Browse Orders. You can freeze. I have that option checked. You can freeze the grid header. And then if I scroll down just a little bit here on this, whoop, hit the wrong one. You see all the different fields? So I could actually take my create date and move it. What if I wanted to put it right by the status? And so I could move it, and then I can go over here, and you'll notice my create date moved right by my status. And once you do that and leave that little widget, it saves it for you. So you can adjust your view to suit your needs. So now I've got some stuff off to the right. It might be important. I mean, right now, I'm not sure that these are important. You can cut those off if you want to by going in here and, you know, you just hit the little green thing and you can knock it out, right? So this field called invoiced, we're not using invoicing yet. So I can click that and you'll notice my screen updates automatically and invoicing one way. So if you want to customize this view to suit you, and I kind of think I like where create date is now. I can very quickly see in progress in the create date. I can do a little sort. There we go. You know, I can get that sorting done. And then maybe I want to, you know, I could save that as a favorite, you know, save this particular query as a favorite. But again, your ability to adjust these browse screens and get it set up so that it's suitable to you. And then you can always scroll down to the bottom here and come here. I can reset the default parameters, right? I can blow this out and completely do a reset to get my default parameters back. I'm not going to do that because I actually think moving that create date, I actually like where that is. I think that looks great. So same thing here with browse orders. And the only difference with browse orders is that we added an order date. So an order doesn't create, a purchase order doesn't create unless the requisition is fully approved. So we're going to take that order date and when that requisition is fully approved and the order comes in, boom, the PO is going to get created and it's going to have a date. Same thing with this, guys. Whoops, lots of scrollers here. If I scroll, if I grab my widget, I can take that order date. Well, let me move it up a little bit. I liked it by status. Let's see. Take that. I think it was pretty cool right up by status there. So you'll notice that that happened in real time. And now next to my PO status, I've got an order date, which is great. And then I also did, now, unfortunately on browse orders, we don't have a show my orders, but I did a query called these Shane's orders, or I did a favorite, excuse me. So these are orders that are associated with me, the status, and then the order date is right there. And again, it's a sortable field. You can see I have converted orders that go back to August of 22 in UAT, you know, and I can sort, and there's my most recent one there back from, looks like Thursday, had one go over for me on Thursday. So again, your ability to move these things around, hide fields, that aren't pertinent to you, you know, and rearrange. And then again, very, very, very similar to what we were through. If you mess something up or you're worried, scroll to the bottom and you can reset those parameters. And then I didn't talk about this. You can also download the table if you want to. So you can download it into Excel. But again, if you mess something up, you're worried, you're missing something, you can reset the default parameters and then you can go back in and, you know, do all your changes, lock the header, you know, whatever you feel like you need to do. You can see my header's locked there. Get out of that. You can see the header here is locked. So I can scroll and I can still see what my column headers are because I set up that parameter. Again, bottom right-hand corner, most of the browse screens that you have give you that option to customize the view. All right. So most of the screens you have that option. So definitely something valuable to use. Kind of we're counting down here to the end of time. I just wanted to show you this real quick. Again, I know it's not a huge impact to you guys, but for those of you, if you're building approval rules, certainly my internal teams here at DPS, if you go to manage approval rules, we've added in this PR type field so you can see where this rule applies to confirming and regular purchase orders, and then the dollar value. Now, this one is basically capturing every dollar value we have, but you can see some different ones. You know, so anything that's going to hit 100,000, you know, up to that amount, you can see those rules. And if I knock out limit to my organization, you'll see some more options here. So this one, $0. And again, I'm in UAT. You know, a lot of valid things in here, but a lot of test things in UAT as well. So $0 approval rule. So if it's $0 and, you know, within that range, it's going to fire that rule, right? So we're testing, you know, some things. If I did something for $0 to a penny, it's going to fire a rule for us. And then on both confirming, you know, but again, just some helpful stuff for the folks that build our rules for us. So that is the end of my part of the session here today. So
we've been feverishly answering questions behind the scenes. So anything that's been answered,
Barb and Tony and Kim for doing that for us.
Yes, lots of individual questions, which again, we want to help you get answers to the questions that you have. Very challenging when we're covering certain topics to get into individual specifics, but we hope we've done our best. And you can always reach out to your resources, which would be your train the trainer if you have one within your organization. You have your DPS account executive, and then customer care. So I'm going to address the elephant in the room that we saw come over in the chat and comments that we received. And we just be very transparent. We've had some staffing shortages. And so we are working to ramp up customer care. Part of that has been, we've been able to promote people to other positions. And that is an excellent place that people join our organization and then they grow. And as they grow, then it leaves gaps and we have to fill. And then naturally, we're seeing a lift in requests and assistance because we do have a new platform. So that has given us the indication through the stats that we've received and that we track and monitor that we also need to staff up. So both of those things are happening to hopefully give relief to our awesome customer care team. They are working those tickets. We also, as team members, are pitching in to try and help get you your answers within that business to 2 business day window that is our typical norm. But right now, some of these things are going outside of our normal response time. So we just apologize in advance. We appreciate your patience and understanding. If for some reason your issue is not being responded to and it's slipped through the cracks, and I mean like it's been a week and nobody's called you back, then we do want to know about that, and we do need to have that brought to our attention, because we know that sometimes those types of things do happen, very rarely, but we are doing our best. We are working on staffing up. We are here to help. We hear you that you want that live person. Why can't I get a live person on the phone? So when you fill out that ticket, oftentimes that live person is going to be that callback you receive. So it's not always going to just have to be this impersonal type of interaction where you just get kind of an email response. So I kind of just wanted to throw all of that out there to let you know that we hear you. We apologize for any lengthy waits that you've had to experience. We very much appreciate your patience as we move forward, and just know that we are working to staff up and that this will not continue to be our norm. Anything you want to add to that, Shane?
Kim, honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay. Great. Yeah. No, I'm if anybody who knows me and knows me any length of time, I'm big into the customer service piece of it. So those folks are our front door to our house, and they do a fantastic job. And we know that they have been beat up lately, and they are just working feverishly. So thank you guys so much in advance for having a little bit of patience and granting us some grace. And Christina, I know that you have raised your hand a few times. I've chatted you. We don't have the ability to unmute you as a participant, but I would love to know what you need assistance with. So feel free, if you aren't just listening over the phone, you may just be listening over the phone, to follow up with me in email, or you can use the chat or the Q&A if you have a question. So I apologize. I've lowered your hand and sent you a chat. But I'm not sure if you saw that or not. So we are going to set our dates for September and October. I'm actually meeting with Shane and Tony after today's meeting, and we will get those dates posted out on the buyer information page of our website, which can be found off of the eVA website down towards the bottom. If you scroll towards the bottom, that buyer information page can be accessed. And we'll also be sending out, like norm, about a week before, the registration link. So look for that, and keep kind of the third week of each of those months on your radar. We will nail down a date after today. The playback will get posted. We thank you guys so much for your time, attention, attendance, your feedback, your participation. Thank you for taking this journey with us and continuing. And we are excited about the future, where we're going. And I, on a personal note, am even more excited for those of you that are going to be fortunate enough to come to the forum this year for those continuing education courses. And hopefully we will see a lot of you there. Our November user group will be taking place at the forum. So Tony and I will be doing that twice with you guys, and we're excited about that. All right. Thank you so much for my lovely hosts today. Thank you, Shane, for all that great information. Tony and Barb for working behind the scenes. We will see you again in September. You guys have a great rest of your day.